Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little different with the intro today because honestly, the material we're covering is just mind-bending.
It really is.
We're going to be talking about why, for a solid month of your existence, you were basically a giant head with a tiny little body attached to it.
The bobblehead phase.
The bobblehead phase.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the specific biological cliff that determines whether a premature baby can survive. And, believe it or not, it involves web balloons and soap.
It sounds strange, but it's the absolute truth.
And finally, we're going to shatter this myth that the womb is some kind of silent, impenetrable bunker. It's not. It's actually a noisy, responsive training ground.
Right. It's the difference between building the frame of a house and then actually installing the wiring so the lights turn on.
Exactly. So if you've been following our series on embryology, we've been really stuck in the weeds of the embryonic period, those first 8 weeks. That was all about folding, geometry, and just trying to get the parts in the right place.
Yeah, that was the blueprint phase.
But today, we are crossing a huge threshold. We are leaving the embryo behind, and we are entering the fetal period. This is episode 7, Growing Without a Blueprint.
And this covers week 9 all the way to birth. It's a massive shift in biological strategy.
Oh, so?
Well, if the embryonic period was asking, what is it? Is this a human or a fish? The fetal period asks, how does it work and how big can we make it?
Okay, so before we get into the how, let's talk about the who. We are pulling this deep dive from a very specific stack of heavy hitters. We like to call them the Council of Elders.
We do. We're relying on the big 3. First, we have Langman's medical embryology. You should think of Langman as the architect.
The architect.
It gives us the developmental principles, the rules of the road, and the deep molecular why behind all the growth.
Then we have Moore and Persaud's The Developing Human,
which is the clinician's Bible. Moore is fantastic because it frames everything in trimesters and weeks. It tells you what you're seeing on the ultrasound. It gives us the hard data on viability. If Langman is the architect, Moore is the site manager.
And rounding it all out,
IB Singh's human embryology. Singh is kind of the cleanup crew. When the other two get a little too dense or poetic, Singh comes in with these great high-yield summaries and lists. It's perfect for exam prep and just, cutting through the noise.
And just a reminder to the learner tuning in, our goal here is not to replace these books. We want to be the spark.
Exactly.
We want to give you the mental scaffolding so that when you do crack open Moore or Langman, you aren't completely overwhelmed. Consider this the ultimate movie trailer for the textbook.
Yes. You still have to watch the movie.
So let's get into the timeline, because I feel like the first stumbling block for anyone, whether you're a med student or just an expectant parent, is the math. The math of pregnancy, it just doesn't make any sense.
It is notoriously confusing.
We have gestational age and fertilization age, and they are different.
Oh, they are very different. And understanding why really helps you understand the difference between a scientist and a doctor.
Okay, break it down for us.
So, an embryologist, the scientist looking at cells under a microscope, cares about the biological truth.
Right.
So they start the clock at the moment of fertilization. Sperm meets egg, boom, that's day 1. By that clock, a full-term human pregnancy is 266 days, or 38 weeks.
38 weeks. But I've never heard anyone say, I'm 38 weeks pregnant as the finish line. It's always 40.
And that's because of the clinicians. Think about it. An OBGYN has no idea when you actually conceived. They weren't there.
No.
They can't see the fertilization event, but they can ask you a very specific question. When was your last normal menstrual period? We call that the LNMP.
A date on a calendar.
A concrete, visible date. So doctors start the pregnancy clock then.
But wait, ovulation usually happens about 2 weeks after your period starts?
Precisely.
So if the doctor starts the clock at my lax period, the first 2 weeks of my quote-unquote pregnancy, I'm not even pregnant yet.
Correct. You are biologically not pregnant. There is no embryo. But according to your medical chart, you are in week 1 and week 2 of gestation.
That is wild. So you get 2 weeks of credit for doing absolutely nothing.
Essentially. It means gestational age is always 2 weeks ahead of fertilization age.
Always.
Always. So if a woman walks in for an ultrasound and the tech says, you are 10 weeks pregnant, the fetus inside her is actually only 8 weeks old biologically.
And this 14-day gap, it's just a constant. It never corrects itself?
It never corrects. You carry that discrepancy all the way to delivery. That's why Moore will talk about 280 days, which is 40 weeks, and Langman will often reference 266 days, 38 weeks. You have to check which clock the book is using.
That is a crucial aha moment. Okay, now that we know when we are, Let's talk about how we measure these little guys. I'm assuming we aren't standing them up against a wall with a pencil.
Definitely not.
Mhm.
Early on, the fetus is so tightly curled in the fetal position, it's a C shape.
Right.
Trying to uncurl a 10-week fetus to measure its standing height or crown heel length would be inaccurate and, frankly, impossible.
So what's the standard?
We use the CRL,
Right.
the crown rump length.
So, sitting height. From the top of the head to the bottom of the butt.
Exactly. And for the first trimester especially, CRL is the gold standard. It's incredibly accurate for dating because healthy embryos grow at a very, very predictable rate in length during that early phase.
Langman has this really interesting principle about the different growth phases.
Yeah.
He breaks it down into length versus weight.
Yes, this is a great rule of thumb. He says that the middle trimester, so months 3, 4, and 5, that's the story of lengthening. The fetus is just stretching out.
Okay.
But weight gain, that's the story of the last 2 months.
So we get tall, then we get fat.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Let's dive into the specifics then. We're leaving the embryonic phase. We're hitting section 2 of our outline, the 3rd month, so weeks 9 through 12. And looking at the diagrams and more, honestly, looking at these things, they look like cartoons.
It's the bobblehead phase.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, at the start of week 9, the head constitutes almost 50% of the entire crown rump length.
Wait. Half the body is the head.
Yes. Imagine a grown man walking down the street, but his head is the size of his entire torso and legs combined. That is a 9-week fetus.
Why? Why the giant head?
Because the brain is the priority. The neurodevelopment in the embryonic phase was so explosive that the skull had to expand incredibly rapidly just to house it. The body is just lagging behind.
So the rest of the pregnancy is basically the body playing.
Catch up, exactly. By birth, the head is only about a quarter of the body length, so the trunk and legs have to grow at double time just to fix that ratio.
And the face at 9 weeks is also a bit of a nightmare.
It's distinct, yeah. If you look at Singh's descriptions, at 9 weeks the eyes are widely separated and they're facing laterally.
Laterally, like a fish.
Yeah.
Or a rabbit.
Like a prey animal, exactly. They're on the sides of the head, and the ears are set way low, almost down near the jawline.
So we look like little alien rabbits.
For a while, yes. But over these 4 weeks, from 9 through 12, a huge transformation happens. The eyes migrate ventrally.
Ventrally, meaning to the front.
To the front, yes.
Yeah.
Towards the front of the face. And this gives us binocular vision, which is a hallmark of primates. Predator vision. And the ears move up to line up with the eyes. So by week 12, you have a recognizably human face.
What about the eyes themselves? Can they look around at all?
No, not yet. The eyelids are actually fused shut. They won't open for months.
Now, inside the body, there's a plumbing milestone in this 3rd month that I find both fascinating and slightly gross.
The kidneys.
Yes, the fetus starts peeing.
Urine formation begins between weeks 9 and 12. And this isn't just a biological trivia fact. This is a structural necessity for the entire pregnancy.
Explain that. Why does the fetus need to pee?
Okay, so the fetus is floating in amniotic fluid.
Right.
It starts to swallow that fluid. The fluid goes into its stomach, gets absorbed into the blood, goes to the kidneys, gets filtered, and is then urinated back out into the amniotic sac.
So it's a closed loop. You drink the pool water, you pee in the pool, you drink the pool water again.
It sounds unappealing to us, but that cycle maintains the water level in the pool. The urine is the amniotic fluid for the most part.
So what happens if the kidneys don't work?
That's a disaster. It's a condition called renal agenesis, or maybe a urethral obstruction. If the baby doesn't pee, the volume of amniotic fluid plummets. We call that oligohydramnios.
And without the fluid?
2 very bad things happen. 1, the fetus gets compressed by the uterine walls because there's no cushion. But more importantly, the lungs don't develop.
Why not?
The fetus breathes the fluid to expand the lungs and help them grow. No pee means no fluid, which means no lung development.
That is incredible. So urination is actually a prerequisite for breathing later on.
Everything is connected.
Let's talk about the gender reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone asks, is it a boy or a girl? But early on, you said we can't tell.
No, in the embryonic period, we are all anatomically ambiguous. The external genitalia look completely identical.
I did an ultrasound at 8 weeks. I couldn't tell.
Visually,
Yeah.
no chance. You'd need a DNA test. But by week 12, the end of this 3rd month differentiation has happened. The tubercules have evolved into either a penis or a clitoris structure that is just distinct enough to see on a high-resolution ultrasound.
So week 12 is the earliest visual confirmation.
Realistically, yes. though a lot of technicians will prefer to wait a little bit longer just to be absolutely sure.
There is one more event in the 3rd month that I have to flag because it sounds like something out of a body horror movie. The herniation resolution.
Oh, this is a classic embryology concept, a beautiful one.
Set the scene for us.
Okay, rewind to week 6, back in the embryonic phase. The liver and the intestines are growing at an absolutely incredible rate. They're growing so fast that the abdominal cavity, the belly, it literally runs out of room. It's too small to hold them.
So what does the body do?
It evicts them. The intestines are pushed out of the body, through the belly button essentially, and they hang out inside the umbilical cord for a while.
So for a month or so, we all have our guts hanging out in a loop outside our body.
Yes. It's called physiological herniation. It's completely normal.
Wow.
But here, in the 3rd month, around week 10 or 11, the abdominal cavity finally grows big enough to accommodate them.
The room is finally ready.
Right. So the intestines slide back inside the body, and the abdominal wall closes up right behind them.
And if they don't, if they get stuck outside.
That's a serious birth defect. If they stay out in the cord, it's an omphalocele. If the wall doesn't close properly next to the cord, it's gastroschisis. But usually, by week 12, everything is tucked away nicely.
So recap of month 3. We have a human face. We're peeing to keep our pool full. We can tell it's a boy or girl. And our guts are back inside our stomach.
And the arms are almost their normal length, though the legs are still a little bit short.
Moving on. Section 3. The 4th and 5th months. That's weeks 13 through 20.
This is where we see the rapid lengthening.
Langman points out that growth in length is just explosive here.
It is. The head becomes relatively smaller because the trunk is finally stretching out. And this is when you really start to see the skeleton.
Ossification.
Right. Before this, the skeleton is mostly cartilage models. It's soft, it's flexible. But now, calcium starts depositing. The bones harden. On an ultrasound at 16 weeks, you can see the bright white outline of the skull, the spine, the long bones.
It starts to look like a real person, not just a fuzzy shape.
Exactly. It's a key time for checking bone integrity.
Now, I want to talk about the quickening, because there's this funny disconnect here between what the fetus is doing and what the mom actually feels.
It's a huge disconnect. If you look at an ultrasound in week 14, the fetus is active. I mean, it's kicking, punching, turning somersaults.
But the mother doesn't feel any of it.
Nothing.
Why? Is she numb or something?
Not at all. It's physics. The fetus is still tiny, maybe 150 grams, and it's surrounded by a liter of water. And the uterine wall is a thick muscle. So when that little baby kicks, it's like trying to punch a pillow underwater. The force just dissipates.
It doesn't register.
Not yet. But by week 17 to 20, the fetus puts on enough muscle and bone mass that the kicks, they land. They impact the uterine wall with enough force to transmit that sensation to the mother's nerves.
And that first moment is called quickening.
Yes. It's a very old term.
It sounds like something from a fantasy novel, the quickening.
Historically, it was a massive deal. In law and religion, quickening was often the threshold for life.
Really?
Yeah. Before the mother felt movement, it wasn't considered fully alive in some cultures.
Yeah.
Medically, of course, we know the movement started weeks ago, but for the patient, for the mother, this is the first real contact.
Let's switch gears to skincare, because I have a question. If I sit in a bathtub for 45 minutes, my fingers turn into prunes, the skin gets waterlogged.
Maceration.
Right.
Right.
So this fetus is sitting in a warm bath for 9 months. Why doesn't it just dissolve?
It would, actually. Amniotic fluid is pretty harsh on delicate skin over that time frame. The skin would crack and peel and get infected.
So what's the fix?
Nature invents a wetsuit.
A wetsuit.
Around month 5, the fetus starts secreting a substance called vernix caseosa.
Vernix caseosa. That sounds fancy. What is it?
It's this, well, Moore describes it as cheese-like.
Phew.
It is gross. It's a mixture of dead skin cells and sebaceous oil sebum. It's this white, greasy, pasty cream that covers the entire body.
So we are covered in cream cheese.
Effectively. But it's waterproof. It completely seals the skin and protects it from the amniotic fluid.
Okay, but if that greasy, wouldn't it just slide off? Like butter on a hot pan?
That's a great engineering question, and nature has an answer for that, too. The fetus grows fur.
Excuse me.
It's called lanugo.
Yeah.
It's this fine, downy hair. It covers the back, the shoulders, the head, and its primary job is to act like Velcro for the vernix. It gives the grease something to grip onto so it stays on the skin.
So at 20 weeks, we are covered in fur and smeared with a white paste.
It is not the most photogenic phase of our development, but it works.
Also in this period, we have the development of brown fat. Now, as an adult, I spend my life trying to get rid of fat. But this stuff is different.
Very different. Brown fat is a survival tool. It's found at the root of the neck, behind the sternum, and around the kidneys. And it's packed with mitochondria.
The powerhouse of the cell.
Exactly. This fat isn't for storage, it's for burning. It oxidizes fatty acids to generate incredible amounts of heat. It's high-octane heat production.
But why does a fetus need a heater? It's 98.6 degrees in there.
It doesn't need it in there. It needs it for the exit.
Ah.
Newborns, we call them neonates. They cannot shiver effectively. They have no way to warm themselves up mechanically. If they didn't have this brown fat space heater built in, they would become hypothermic almost instantly after birth.
So it's all prep for the cold world outside.
Precisely.
Okay, we are hitting the halfway mark. We are entering section 4, weeks 21 through 25. And this is, in my opinion, the heaviest part of the discussion, the viability threshold.
This is the critical window, the gray zone.
Define viability for us in this context.
It is the point at which a fetus can survive outside the uterus.
Now, Moore gives us some pretty scary stats here.
He does. A fetus born before 22 weeks essentially has 0 chance of survival. Between 22 and 25 weeks, survival is possible with modern intensive care, but the risk of severe neurodevelopmental disability is very, very high.
But here's what I don't get. At 22 weeks, the heart is beating. The kidneys are working. The brain is firing. Why is that the hard line? Why can't we just put them in a high-tech incubator and wait?
It's not about keeping them warm. It's about the lungs, specifically the physics of the lungs.
Okay, break that down.
Imagine the lungs are made of millions of tiny little balloons called alveoli, but these balloons are wet on the inside.
Okay.
Now, have you ever tried to blow up a balloon that was wet inside? The sides stick together.
Yeah, it's impossible.
That's surface tension. The water molecules hold onto each other so tightly, if a baby tries to take a breath, they have to use muscle power to peel those wet sides apart. A premature baby simply isn't strong enough. They would take one breath, the lungs would collapse, and they would die of exhaustion trying to take the second one.
So what changes at 24 weeks?
The body produces a magic ingredient called surfactant.
Surfactant.
It's a lipid, a type of fat that acts like a detergent. It coats the inside of those balloons and it breaks the surface tension. It makes the sides slippery so they don't stick.
So the balloon can inflate easily.
Exactly. Special cells called type 2 pneumocytes in the lungs start secreting this around week 24. Before that moment, the machinery just isn't there. The factory hasn't opened yet.
So that is the cliff. If you were born before the surfactant factory opens.
The lungs cannot function. We can give artificial surfactant now, which helps a lot, but biologically, that is the single greatest hurdle.
It's just amazing that a molecule of soap is the difference between life and death.
It really is.
While we're in this period, there's also a sort of sensory awakening happening.
Yes, the fetus is waking up. Rapid eye movements, or REM, begin around 21 weeks, and we see the blink startle response.
What is that?
If you make a loud noise like drop a pan next to the mother's belly, the fetus will physically blink and jump.
So they can hear us.
They can hear and they can process. The neural pathways are connecting. Moore actually notes that by week 26, the eyelids open. They're looking around in the dark.
Okay, we've made it past the danger zone. We're entering section 5, the finishing school. Weeks 26, all the way to birth.
This is the home stretch.
What's the main goal here?
Refinement and bulk.
Let's look at the brain first, weeks 26 to 29.
The central nervous system matures dramatically. It finally gains the ability to control rhythmic breathing and body temperature. This is the physiological graduation.
Right.
Before this, even if the lungs worked, the brain might just forget to tell them to breathe. Now, the command center is online.
And blood production changes too.
Yes. For most of the pregnancy, the liver and spleen have been acting as the blood factories. But by week 28, the bone marrow takes over. That's the adult pattern.
Now, visually, the baby changes a lot here. Up until now, based on the pictures in Langman, the fetus looks like a wrinkled old person.
Red, wrinkly skin, very little fat.
But then comes the chubby phase.
Weeks 30 to 38, this involves white fat.
Not the heater fat.
No, this is for insulation and energy storage. Langman emphasizes that 50% half of the baby's full-term weight is added in these last 2.5 months.
Wow. So they are just packing it on.
They are filling out the suit. The subcutaneous fat fills in all the wrinkles, the skin turns pink instead of red, and they start to look like the Gerber baby.
And for the boys, there is a bit of a road trip happening.
The descent of the testes.
Where do they start?
way up in the abdomen, near the kidneys.
It's a long way from where they end up.
It is. Over the last few months, they travel down through the abdomen, through the inguinal canal, and drop into the scrotum by the end of the 9th month.
So if a baby boy is born prematurely.
It's very common to find undescended tests. They just haven't finished the drive yet.
So we arrive at birth. What are the specs we're looking for in a, standard model?
Standard model. Crown rump length of about 360 millimeters, so 36 centimeters sitting height. Weight around 3,000 to 3,400 grams.
And the head circumference.
Still the largest circumference of the body.
Which is structurally relevant for the mother.
It's the battering ram. The head has to dilate the cervix. Once the head is through, the shoulders and hips usually follow easily because they're smaller.
We've painted a picture of a perfect linear progression here, but the outline has a section called When Growth Goes Wrong. And we need to distinguish between a small baby and a sick baby.
This is the critical difference between SGA and IUGR.
Alphabet soup. Help us out.
Okay. SGA stands for small for gestational age. This is a baby who is in the bottom 10th percentile for weight. But, and this is the key, they might be perfectly healthy.
How so?
Genetics. If mom is 5'0" and dad is slight, they aren't going to produce a linebacker. The baby is small because it is meant to be small. It reached its genetic potential.
Okay, so contrast that with IUGR.
Injury and growth restriction. This is pathological. This is a baby who should have been 8 pounds but came out 5 pounds. They were prevented from reaching their potential.
They were starved.
Essentially, yes.
What causes that? What starves a fetus?
It's usually a supply chain issue. The sources highlight a few major culprits. Smoking is a massive one.
How does smoking actually shrink a baby?
Vasoconstriction. Nicotine tightens blood vessels. Imagine the umbilical cord and the placental vessels are a straw that the baby is drinking through. Smoking pinches the straw.
So you get less flow.
Less flow means less oxygen, less glucose, fewer amino acids. The baby is chronically undernourished. On average, smokers' babies are about 200 grams lighter.
And alcohol?
Alcohol is directly toxic to the cells themselves. Fetal alcohol syndrome causes IUGR, but it also damages the brain wiring and the facial structure. It's devastating.
What about twins? It seems logical that 2 babies would be smaller.
It is logical. It's a supply chain problem again. The placenta has a finite surface area. It can only exchange so much nutrient broth. In the 3rd trimester, the metabolic hunger of 2 fetuses simply exceeds what the kitchen can produce, so growth slows down for both of them.
There's one last factor I found really interesting, the idea that the placenta can just expire.
Yes. Placental insufficiency. The placenta is an organ with a lifespan. It's designed to work for about 40 WIMPs. If a pregnancy goes post-term, so past 42 weeks, the placenta starts to degrade. It gets calcified. It stops working efficiently.
Yeah. So a baby who stays in too long
can actually lose weight. We call it post-maturity syndrome. They come out looking dry with parchment-like loose skin. They've been losing weight because their life support system started shutting down.
That is scary. Being overcooked is a real medical risk.
It is.
Let's wrap up with Section 7, the window into the womb. Because for most of human history, all of this was a total black box. You didn't know what was happening until the baby came out.
Right. And now we have windows.
Ultrasound being the main one.
Ultrasound is the workhorse.
Yeah.
We use the CRL, the crown rump length, for dating early on. Later, we measure the BPD of the biparietal diameter, which is the width of the head, and the femur length to track growth.
But sometimes pictures aren't enough. Sometimes you need cells.
That's when we go invasive. Amniocentesis is the classic, a needle through the mother's belly into the amniotic fluid. We catch the floating skin cells and check their DNA.
Or things like Down syndrome.
For Down syndrome, which is trisomy 21 and other chromosomal issues. But we also check the fluid for chemicals like AFP.
Alpha-fetoprotein.
Right. AFP is produced by the fetal liver. It's supposed to stay inside the fetus. If we find high levels of it floating around in the amniotic fluid, it means there is a leak.
A leak?
Like an open neural tube defect spina bifida. The spinal cord is open, so AFP leaks out. Or that omphalocele we talked about, the gut is open to the outside.
So high AFP means there's a hole. What if the AFP is low?
Low levels are statistically associated with chromosomal defects like Down syndrome.
And finally, there's a procedure called PBS, which sounds like a bar, but it definitely isn't.
Percutaneous umbilical blood sampling. This is high-stakes stuff. The doctor guides a needle directly into the umbilical cord to take blood from the fetus itself.
Why would you ever risk that?
To treat the patient. If the fetus has severe anemia, say, from an Rh incompatibility, where the mother's immune system is attacking the baby's blood, We can use PBS to give the fetus a blood transfusion.
Wait, you can give a blood transfusion to a fetus that hasn't been born yet?
Yes, we can replace their blood while they're still in the womb.
That completely reframes the concept of the fetus.
It does. It stops being just a developing organism and becomes a patient. A patient you can diagnose, a patient you can measure, and a patient you can treat.
That is a profound place to land. So let's zoom out. We've gone from a 9-week creature with a giant head and his guts in the cord, through the hairy cream cheese phase, past the surfactant cliff, all the way to a chubby, breathing newborn.
It is a journey of refinement. The embryonic period was construction. The fetal period is finishing school. It's all about ensuring the systems can handle the shock of birth.
I think that's the thought I want to leave everyone with. We have this very romantic idea of the womb. It's cozy, it's safe, it's a bunker.
But the sources, Moore, Langman, Singh, they paint a very different picture.
It's not a bunker. It's a training ground.
It's a high-stakes gym. The fetus is practicing breathing movements to strengthen its diaphragm. It's swallowing to test the gut. It's fighting for calcium from the mother to harden its own bone. It's recruiting fat to survive the cold. It is an active participant in its own survival.
The fact that any of us make it out with 10 fingers, working lungs, and a beating heart isn't just nature taking its course. It is a statistical triumph.
It really is the most complex engineering project in the universe, and it happens underwater, in the dark, in just 38 weeks.
If you want to see this acceleration for yourself, seriously, go find a copy of Moore and just look at the growth charts. The curve is exponential. It will blow your mind.
It is absolutely worth the read.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next one.
Until next time.